Have you ever imagined a place where rain never stops? Not for a day, not for a year, but for 100 years and more. There is an old story whispered across the valleys of forgotten lands, of a village where sunlight hasn't touched the ground for generations, where children grow up never knowing what a shadow looks like, and the sky is always crying softly, as if it remembers something we don't. No one knows when the rain began, or why it chose that one quiet village. Some say it was a curse. Others believe it was the sky's way of protecting something hidden, something precious, something too sacred for the world to see. But deep within that endless drizzle, beneath the mist-covered rooftops and glistening cobblestone streets, there lived a girl, the only one who dreamed of sunlight. And tonight, you'll hear her story. A story about hope, about memory, and about the gentle power of dreams that can change even the weather itself. So, before we begin this journey into the rain, take a deep breath, settle into your pillow, and let the rhythm of the raindrops guide your heartbeat. If you enjoy stories that take you far away from the noise of the world, stories that help you drift into calm and peaceful sleep, please don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel for more soothing historical tales, and share in the comments. Where in the world are you listening from tonight? Now, close your eyes and let the rain begin to fall. For as long as anyone could remember, the rain had fallen without end. It did not roar with anger, nor strike the earth with fury. It simply descended with soft, endless patience, a silver curtain between the world and the sky. The people of the forgotten village had stopped counting the days long ago. They did not speak of sunlight, because sunlight was a word that belonged to stories told by travelers who never stayed. The roofs of their homes were green with moss, and their wooden doors swollen from centuries of damp air. The river that once meandered gently through the valley had grown wide and slow, like a mirror that no longer reflected faces, but only clouds. Old men would sit beneath the dripping awnings and mutter that the rain had washed away time itself, that perhaps the village no longer existed on any map. They said, when you left its borders and tried to return, you could never find the same path back, as if the rain had rearranged the land each night in its sleep. Inside the cottages, candles burned from dawn till dusk, for there was no morning, no evening, only shades of grey that shifted with the clouds. Children played quietly under porches, catching raindrops in cups, pretending they were gathering jewels. Some villagers believed the rain was a blessing sent to hide them from the world beyond, a world that had forgotten them. A few thought it was punishment, though none could say for what. Perhaps for something their ancestors had done, long before the memory of sin had faded from their songs. And yet, despite the endless downpour, life went on. The baker still baked his soggy bread. The cobbler still mended boots that never dried, and the church bell still rang, though its sound was muffled by the mist. Somewhere beneath that heavy curtain of water, dreams still tried to grow. One such dream belonged to a girl named Elara. She was born on a night when thunder rolled like distant drums, and the rain fell so thick that even the midwife said the sky was trying to drown the stars. From the day she could walk, she loved the sound of rain. It whispered to her as if telling stories only she could hear. But as she grew older, something inside her began to ache. She wanted to see the sun. People laughed gently at her wish, telling her the sun was nothing but a legend told by the foolish. Yet she could not let go of the image she had never seen. She imagined light that was warm, not wet, brightness that could make colours dance, not fade. Her grandmother once told her of a time when the sky was blue and flowers had faces that turned toward it. Elara would sit by the window, tracing the raindrops as they slid down the glass, wondering if behind them there was a place where the sky smiled. Her father worked repairing roofs, a never-ending task in a world of rain. He was a quiet man, his face lined by weather and silence. Every evening, when he returned home soaked and weary, he would find Elara waiting with a small lantern in her hands. Sometimes he would look at her and say softly, "You were born for light, my little one. Maybe that's why the sky won't stop crying." Then he would smile, a fragile smile that faded before it reached his eyes. At night, Ilara would listen to the rhythm of the rain as if it were music meant only for her. The sound changed with every hour, sometimes like the hum of a lullaby, sometimes like a whisper from far away. One such night, as the storm swelled outside and the wind bent the willows by the river, she heard something strange. It was her name. Ilara. She sat up, her heart fluttering. The sound came again, soft, almost lost within the downpour, but unmistakable. It was not her mother's voice, nor her father's. It came from beyond the walls, beyond the garden, beyond the constant hum of rain. Ilara, come to the river. She froze, her breath catching. The river was not a place people visited after dark. It was said to be bottomless, a mirror to another world. They called it the sky beneath the earth. Old stories claimed that it was where the rain began, and that those who wandered too close would forget themselves. Ilara's first instinct was to stay inside, to hide beneath her blanket and pretend she had imagined it. But something inside her stirred, a pull that felt older than fear. Slowly, she rose, her bare feet touching the cold floor. The air smelled of wet wood and smoke. She opened the door, and a rush of cool mist wrapped around her. The village lay silent. All doors were closed, all candles dimmed. The only sound was the endless whisper of rain. She stepped into the muddy street, her lantern flickering weakly against the wind. Each drop that struck her skin felt like a question she couldn't answer. She walked past the baker's hut, the leaning willow, the old stone bridge that creaked under her feet. The path wound down toward the riverbank, where the mist grew thicker and the world seemed to fade away. When she reached the edge, she saw that the river was perfectly still. Not even the rain disturbed its surface. It was black, smooth, and deep, as if it were holding its breath. Ilara leaned closer, her reflection faint beneath the thin light of her lantern. Then she saw something move. A shimmer, soft and distant, like a pulse beneath the water. It glowed faintly, golden, beating like a heart. And then she heard it again. Ilara, the sky remembers. Her fingers tightened around the lantern. The words echoed through her bones, gentle but heavy, like truth wrapped in mist. The light in the river flickered once, twice, and vanished. The rain returned to its steady rhythm. The world seemed to breathe again. Ilara stood there, soaked to the skin, her pulse racing. She wanted to run, but her feet wouldn't move. Somewhere behind her, the village clock struck midnight. And far above, hidden by clouds, something shifted, as if the sky itself had turned to listen. Ilara stood at the edge of the riverbank, her lantern trembling in her hands. The black water stretched endlessly, still and silent, except for the gentle tapping of raindrops on its surface. Yet beneath the rhythm of the storm, she thought she heard something else, a subtle hum, almost like a whisper carried by the currents. She leaned closer, straining to hear, and there it was again, clearer this time, forming words she could almost understand but not fully grasp. Ilara. The sound was soft but certain, as if the river itself was calling her. She shivered and took a cautious step forward. The mud clung to her bare feet, pulling her toward the water, yet not in a way that felt threatening. It was more like an invitation, a quiet insistence that she follow. She knelt at the edge, peering into the inky depths, and the shimmer appeared once more, that faint golden pulse beneath the surface. Her heartbeat matched its rhythm, slow, steady, hypnotic. "You came," the voice murmured again. "Do you see?" Ilara swallowed, unsure whether she had spoken aloud or if the river answered silently. She bent closer, tracing the shimmer with her finger, and as she did, the water rippled in a way that seemed deliberate. Reflections formed on the surface, not of her face, but of shapes. Fleeting images of a village long ago, sunlight breaking through clouds, children running on dry grass. The visions vanished as quickly as they appeared, leaving her breathless and wet with rain. A memory stirred deep inside her, a story her grandmother had whispered on quiet nights, of the river as a guardian. The river knows, her grandmother had said. It remembers the past, and it listens to those who dream. Elara realized that the river was more than water. It was a keeper of secrets, a mirror of time, and tonight it had chosen to speak to her. The wind carried the faint scent of wet earth and moss, mingling with the smell of rain-soaked wood. She felt as if the entire world had narrowed down to this one spot, her, the river, and the soft hum of its memory. She knelt for what seemed like hours, listening until the rain's rhythm became part of her heartbeat. And then, without warning, a soft current tugged at her fingers, pulling the shimmer closer, shaping the golden light into something she could almost recognize. The river had a voice now, clear and flowing like a song. The rain remembers the promise, it whispered, each word a ripple across the water's surface. The village remains, not by chance, but because the sky cannot forget. Elara's eyes widened. A promise. She had never heard of such a thing. Who had made it, and what had been promised? She wanted to speak, to ask, but her voice was caught somewhere between awe and fear. She stood, brushing water from her hands, and walked along the riverbank. The shimmer followed, drifting in the current as if guiding her. As she moved, she began to notice details she had never seen before. The way moss grew in patterns resembling ancient symbols, the faint footprints of animals long vanished, and the ruins of an old bridge whose stones hummed softly with the river's pulse. Every element of the river seemed alive, connected to the village in ways no one had understood for centuries. Suddenly, a voice from the mist startled her. "You hear it too, don't you?" A figure emerged, cloaked and hooded, standing on the far side of the river. Elara's lantern flickered, casting shadows that danced across the water. The figure stepped closer, their voice gentle but urgent. "The river chooses who listens. You are the first in generations." Elara's heart raced. "Who are you?" she asked, barely above a whisper. The figure did not answer directly, only gestured to the water. Images swirled beneath the surface. An old village square, markets bustling with people under sunlight, laughter echoing through streets that now only existed in memory. Then, a sudden scene appeared of a storm, heavier than any she had known, and villagers standing together, raising hands toward the sky as if pleading. "They tried to protect it," the figure said. "The rain began because of what was promised that day, a covenant between earth, sky, and those who once lived here. The river remembers, and now, so must you." Elara took a step closer to the river, mesmerized. The golden shimmer pulsed faster, revealing fragments of faces, hands reaching, prayers whispered in voices she could not identify. Each fragment told a story, of sacrifice, of hope, of fear, and of a single wish that had carried across time. She realized the rain was not random. It was deliberate, sustained by memory and promise, a living testament that the village had endured for a reason. Hours passed, though Elara could not tell how long. The rain continued its quiet, endless fall, but now she perceived layers beneath it. Histories intertwined, each droplet a word, each current a sentence in the river's ancient language. She began to understand that she was part of this story now, a witness and a listener, chosen to remember what had been almost forgotten. As dawn approached, though it brought no sunlight, only the faintest light diffused through clouds, Elara knelt once more by the river. The shimmer pulsed one last time, forming a shape she could recognize. A hand reaching out, not threatening, but inviting. The river had given her its first secret. It had begun to speak, but there was more to uncover, deeper truths that lay hidden beneath layers of rain and memory. Elara looked toward the mist-shrouded village and felt the weight of responsibility settle on her shoulders. The rain would not cease, she knew that now. It was a living reminder, a constant whisper that the past was never truly gone. And as she stood there, soaked to the skin, the river murmured again, softer this time, almost a lullaby. Remember, remember, remember. And with that, Ilara understood that the journey had only just begun. The rain had not stopped, nor did it ever seem to, yet Ilara felt no fear. Instead, an unfamiliar resolve settled over her, steady as the river itself. She had followed the shimmering pulse downstream, deeper into the mist where few dared to go. The village seemed smaller now, a memory wrapped in rain, while the path ahead stretched into unknown shadows and half-formed stories. The wind whispered through the willows, bending their branches low as if pointing toward a hidden way. Ilara walked carefully, each step sinking into wet soil, her lantern flickering yet holding its glow against the endless grey. Her thoughts swirled with the images she had seen in the river, faces, hands, prayers, promises. Why had the rain started? Why had the village endured this endless deluge? The river had begun to speak, but it had given her only fragments, like pieces of a puzzle whose edges she could not yet see. As she reached a grove at the river's bend, a figure appeared through the fog, cloaked in layers of grey that seemed to shimmer with moisture. The keeper of the clouds stood motionless, yet their presence felt immense, as though the mist itself bent around them. The figure's hood concealed most of their face, but a single pair of eyes gleamed like wet stones in the half-light. "You have come," the keeper said, voice low and calm, yet carrying the authority of wind and water. "The river told me to expect you." Few have heard its whisper and dared to follow. Ilara swallowed, shivering from both the chill and anticipation. Who are you?" she asked, her voice almost drowned by the rain. "I am the keeper," the figure replied. "I have watched over the skies and rivers for longer than any memory holds. I ensure that promises made to the world are remembered. The village endures because the covenant is unbroken, yet it teeters on the edge of forgetting. That is why the river called you." Ilara felt a strange warmth in the words, though the rain soaked her thoroughly. A covenant? What kind of promise? The keeper lifted a hand, and the clouds above parted slightly, letting a faint silver light filter through. "Long ago, your ancestors made a vow to protect the balance between sky and earth. The rain began as a reminder, a guardian of what was given freely, yet easily forgotten. Time passed, and the villagers lost knowledge of the covenant. Few still understand the reason for this endless rain." Ilara's heart pounded. "And you keep it all?" "I do not keep it for myself," the keeper said. "I maintain it for those who listen, for those who will act when the river calls. The village cannot see, cannot know, yet it survives because the rain does not lie. The river remembers, the clouds remember, and now so must you." A soft gust of wind swirled around them, carrying the scent of wet earth and moss. It was as if the forest itself leaned closer to listen. Ilara stepped forward, compelled by both fear and curiosity. "What must I do?" she asked. "You must learn," the keeper said simply. "You must see what has been hidden and understand what the river cannot say aloud. Some truths are too heavy for ordinary hearts. You, however, carry the weight willingly. Follow me." Without another word, the keeper moved toward a narrow path that climbed into the hills. Ilara followed, her wet clothes clinging, lantern held high. The rain's rhythm changed, a subtle beat that mirrored her own heartbeat, guiding her step by step. Moss-covered stones lined the path, each one etched with symbols she had never seen, ancient and silent, yet vibrating with a quiet energy. "Each stone marks a memory," the keeper said, reading her glance. "A life, a promise, a choice made or unmade. The river carries them, the rain preserves them, and you will learn to read them if you are patient." Ilara nodded, though she did not fully understand. Her mind buzzed with questions. Why her? Why now? And most pressing of all, would she ever see the sun? Yet she felt a strange trust in this figure, as though the clouds themselves had chosen her for this task. The path opened into a small plateau above the river. Here the rain fell in a delicate curtain, and the world seemed to stretch endlessly in every direction. The keeper stood at the edge, hands lifted slightly, as if touching invisible threads that connected sky and earth. Light glinted off the drops like scattered diamonds. "Look," the keeper whispered. "Do you see the patterns the rain makes? Each droplet carries history, memory, and promise. The river below is alive with them. One day, someone must read them all. Perhaps that someone is you." Alara knelt, peering over the edge of the plateau. The river shimmered, a mosaic of light and shadow, each ripple carrying shapes she could almost recognize. Buildings long crumbled, markets vibrant with laughter, faces she could not name. She realized that the rain was not punishment, nor was it merely nature's whim. It was remembrance, a living ledger of deeds and words and prayers that had once bound the village to the skies. The keeper placed a hand gently on her shoulder. "Do not fear the knowledge. To understand is to honor those who came before. To act is to protect what remains. The rain teaches patience, reflection, and courage. You have begun to hear it. Now you must see it fully." Hours passed, though no one could tell the time. The rain persisted, yet the plateau felt almost sacred, insulated from the ordinary world. Alara's mind absorbed the river's pulse, the patterns in the raindrops, and the keeper's quiet authority. She began to feel as if she were part of something immense, beyond the village, beyond the river, beyond the endless grey. Then, the keeper spoke again. "Tomorrow, you will journey to the heart of the storm. You will discover why the rain remembers, and why the village survives. You will meet the source, and you will understand the covenant. But tonight, you must rest. Let the river's memory lull you, for the path ahead demands more than courage. It demands understanding." Alara remained kneeling, the rain dripping from her hair and clothes, her lantern flickering softly. She felt a profound calm settle in her chest. Though the questions remained, she understood one truth. She was no longer a passive witness. She was chosen to remember, to see, to act. The river had called, the clouds had answered, and now she would step into the story itself. Above her, the storm whispered secrets in a language older than any she had learned, and Alara closed her eyes, letting the rain's endless rhythm become her own heartbeat. Alara awoke to the soft patter of rain against the leaves, her lantern still flickering beside her on the damp ground. The keeper of the clouds had vanished with the first grey light, leaving only the memory of their presence and the gentle hum of the storm. She rose slowly, her body aching from the long night, yet her mind brimming with questions she could not ignore. The river's shimmer, the golden pulse, the whispered words, all of it lingered like a delicate thread weaving through her thoughts. She stepped carefully along the plateau's edge, where the wet stones glistened like dark jewels, each one etched with symbols she was only beginning to recognize. The patterns were not random. They spoke of lives and promises, deeds long forgotten, and vows made to forces larger than the village itself. Alara traced her fingers over the carved lines, and the river seemed to respond, rippling softly as if acknowledging her touch. The memory of the keeper's words echoed in her mind. The village endures because the covenant is unbroken, yet it teeters on the edge of forgetting. What was this covenant, she wondered? Who had made it, and why had it demanded such endless rain? She had glimpsed fragments in the river, but now she wanted the full story, the truth that had been buried beneath centuries of grey skies and dripping rooftops. Descending carefully toward the riverbank, Alara followed a path that twisted through a grove of willows, their branches heavy with rainwater, touching the ground like fingers seeking secrets. Every step seemed guided, though she did not understand by whom or what. The river's hum grew stronger as she approached, and she realized it was no longer a whisper but a song, low and deep, vibrating through the earth beneath her feet. "Alara," the river seemed to call. "Come closer. Learn." She knelt at the water's edge, staring into its depths. The shimmer appeared again, golden and pulsing. This time it took shape-forming images more vivid than before. A village bathed in sunlight, children playing in fields that now lay beneath moss and stone. Elders gathering in the town square, their hands raised toward the sky, uttering words she could not hear yet somehow understood. The scene shifted rapidly, showing storms of unimaginable ferocity, villagers standing together, shielding one another, and then a figure, tall, cloaked in silver and blue, standing on a hill above the village, raising hands to the clouds. Elara gasped. The figure's presence was commanding, yet gentle. The river shimmered more intensely, and a voice echoed as if carried by the current itself. This is the one who made the promise, the first covenant keeper. The village was entrusted to the sky, and the sky to the village, in a pact of memory and protection. What was given freely must be remembered. Her mind raced. The promise had been made long before she was born, before even the oldest stories had been told. It was not merely a wish for rain or sun, but an agreement between forces beyond human understanding. And yet, the river suggested that the covenant was incomplete, fragile, teetering on the edge of being forgotten. That is why she had been chosen, to witness, to remember, to continue what others could not. Elara followed the river upstream, each step drawing her deeper into the mist. She passed over stones, slick with moss, roots twisting like serpents beneath her feet, and glimpsed ruins of buildings submerged in the flood of centuries. The hum of the river grew louder, more urgent, weaving into the rhythm of the rain. She realized she could almost hear the voices of those long gone, murmuring in gratitude, in fear, in hope. Hours seemed to pass as she walked, though the rain's relentless fall made it impossible to mark time. At last, she reached a small clearing where the water pooled in a vast circular basin, reflecting clouds that seemed impossibly low, almost within reach. In the center of the basin, a pedestal of stone rose, carved with intricate runes and ancient glyphs. The shimmer of the river converged there, forming a vortex of light that pulsed like a heartbeat. Elara approached cautiously, her heart pounding in tandem with the glowing pulse. She reached out, her fingers brushing the cool surface of the pedestal, and suddenly visions surged through her mind. The first covenant keeper standing before the villagers, raising hands skyward, promises spoken aloud, binding earth, sky, and people together. Storms summoned not to punish, but to preserve. And finally, the first raindrop falling, heavy with intent, marking the beginning of the endless rain. She staggered back, breathless, overwhelmed by the weight of memory. I understand, she whispered, though the words felt inadequate. The rain, it protects them, it preserves them, it remembers. Yes, came the voice, not from the air but from everywhere at once, like the river itself had spoken. The village survives because memory flows like water. Each generation must hear, must witness, must carry forward the promise. And now, it is your turn. You must remember, Elara, and guide those who will come after. She sank to her knees, rain soaking her completely, and felt the magnitude of the covenant settle over her like a heavy, sacred cloak. The river's shimmer danced around her, golden and blue, and for the first time, she felt a deep connection to the countless generations who had lived and died under this unending sky. The endless rain was no longer a curse but a living memory, a river of promises flowing through time, and she was its newest witness. From the depths of the basin, the river pulsed once, twice, and a gentle current lapped at her hands, as if acknowledging her understanding. Elara felt the keeper's presence again, though unseen, standing near, guiding, watching. She realized that knowledge alone was not enough. Action would be required. The river had shown her the covenant, but living it, preserving it, would fall to her. She rose slowly, shaking off water and doubt, and looked toward the village that lay shrouded in mist. The streets were empty, silent except for the constant drum of rain, yet she felt the presence of countless ancestors in every drop. She understood that the covenant was not a distant story, but a living bond, fragile and enduring, tied to the lives of those who had come before and those who would follow. The wind shifted, carrying the scent of wet earth and ancient wood, and the river's hum softened, flowing into the background like a lullaby. Elara's resolve hardened. She would learn the full history of the Covenant. She would ensure that the village's memory survived, that the promise was never forgotten, and that the rain, though endless, remained a guardian rather than a curse. As she began the slow walk back to the village, the shimmer of the river lingered in her mind, golden and insistent, a heartbeat of memory flowing through her own. The rain continued, soft and persistent, carrying with it the voices of the past and the weight of the promise that now rested in her hands. And somewhere above, the clouds shifted, parting slightly, as if to acknowledge her understanding, and the river murmured once more, "Remember, guard, endure." Elara knew that her journey had only begun. The Covenant would demand courage, wisdom, and patience. The rain would test her, and so would the village, but she would not falter. For now she carried the memory of the forgotten promise, and it would guide her through every storm yet to come. The rain had grown heavier as Elara followed the winding path upstream, each step deeper into the hills shrouded in mist. The river's pulse grew stronger, a heartbeat she could feel beneath her feet, vibrating through the stones and soil, connecting the past with the present. The forest around her seemed alive, every leaf trembling, every branch whispering secrets carried across centuries. She knew now that she was approaching something ancient, something sacred, something that had not been touched by ordinary eyes for generations. The wind swirled, carrying droplets that danced around her like tiny, shimmering stars. She held her lantern high, its light barely cutting through the grey, yet it seemed sufficient, as if the storm itself acknowledged her presence. Memories of the Covenant, the river's shimmer, and the Keeper of the Clouds' words all converged in her mind, guiding her step by step. The village below was a distant hum, forgotten for a time, while the path ahead demanded her full attention, her courage, and her understanding. After what seemed like hours, she reached a clearing unlike any she had seen. The rain fell in sheets around a circular basin of water, larger and darker than any pool she had encountered before. Mist rose from its surface, forming ghostly shapes that seemed to reach toward the sky. And at its center, a vortex of golden and silver light swirled, pulsing in rhythm with the river, as if the heart of the storm itself had been waiting for her arrival. Elara stepped forward cautiously. The ground beneath her feet was firm, yet she felt a vibration, a subtle thrumming that resonated with her own heartbeat. The air was thick, heavy with energy and ancient memory, carrying the scent of wet earth, ozone, and something indefinable. A promise unbroken, waiting to be understood. A voice echoed, deep and resonant, not from a single direction, but from all around her, as though the storm itself had taken form and chosen to speak. "You have come," it said, "because the promise has called you. Few have been chosen, and fewer still have listened. Do you understand why the rain persists? Why the village endures? Why the sky has not forgotten?" Elara swallowed, her lips trembling. I think I do," she whispered. "The rain protects the village. It remembers the promise. It preserves what others have forgotten." The storm pulsed light and shadow dancing across the water, revealing fleeting visions. Villagers standing together, hands raised to the sky, prayers flowing like rivers. A figure cloaked in silver and blue raising their voice to the clouds. Storms summoned not to punish, but to guard. Each vision lasted only a heartbeat, yet they carried a weight beyond comprehension. "You are correct," the voice said. "Yet understanding is not enough. To honor the covenant, one must walk the path, feel the pulse of memory, and confront what lies at the heart of the storm. There, the reason for the endless rain, the covenant, and the village's survival will be revealed." Elara took a deep breath, her fingers gripping the lantern tighter. She stepped closer to the basin, feeling the pull of the vortex, the way the water seemed to beckon, drawing her toward its center, Her reflection shimmered and distorted, merging with visions of past generations, their eyes silent, their hands raised in both hope and desperation. Each heartbeat of the storm seemed to resonate with theirs, binding her to the village, the river, and the covenant itself. A sudden gust of wind swept across the clearing, whipping the rain into a spiral that threatened to topple her, yet she remained rooted. The vortex pulsed faster, golden and silver light weaving together, forming shapes she could almost recognize. Hands, faces, symbols that spoke of promises, sacrifices, and the weight of memory carried across centuries. "You must enter," the voice urged, calm but commanding. "Step into the heart and see what has been hidden. Only there will the covenant reveal its full truth." Elara hesitated, her mind spinning with the enormity of the moment. To step into the vortex was to embrace the unknown, to confront forces older than the village, older than herself. Yet she knew that turning away was not an option. The river, the keeper, and the whispers of generations demanded her courage. Slowly, she stepped forward, letting the water lap at her feet, feeling the pulse of the storm course through her body. As she entered the vortex, light enveloped her, warm and cold all at once, pulsing with memory and promise. Shapes swirled around her, faces and hands, voices and songs, all converging in a tapestry of time. She felt as though she were being lifted, carried on currents of memory, seeing the village as it had been, as it was, and as it might yet become. The storm spoke again, softer now, like a lullaby and a warning intertwined. The covenant was made to protect, to preserve, to remember. The rain is not punishment, it is a guardian. The village survives because the promise was given freely, and it must be honored eternally. You have come to witness, to learn, and to carry the memory forward. Elara's heart raced as visions flooded her mind. The first covenant keeper standing before the villagers, raising hands to the sky. Storms called forth to protect, not harm. Elders teaching their children the words of the promise so that no one would forget. The river shimmered beneath her, golden and silver light intertwining, pulsing with the heartbeat of all who had ever lived in the village. Tears mingled with the rain on her cheeks as she understood the enormity of her role. She was no longer just a girl in a forgotten village. She was a witness, a guardian, a bearer of memory. The storm would test her, challenge her, and demand more than courage. Yet she felt a deep certainty settle within her. She would not fail. Above, the clouds shifted, revealing a faint, impossible light, and the voice of the storm murmured once more, "Remember, protect, endure, for the heart of the storm holds all that must not be forgotten." Elara stood, drenched and trembling, yet unbroken. The vortex pulsed around her one last time, golden and silver threads weaving into the river below, connecting past, present, and future. She stepped back onto the ground, feeling the weight of centuries, the promise of the covenant, and the endless rain pressing gently, insistently upon her. As she began the slow journey back toward the village, she realized that nothing would ever be the same. The river's shimmer, the keeper's words, and the storm itself had imprinted upon her soul. She carried the covenant now, alive and unbroken, a living memory in a world of endless rain. And far above, the clouds whispered, soft and eternal, "Endure, remember, protect." The river's pulse faded into a gentle hum as Elara returned toward the village, yet a lingering sense of anticipation remained in the air. The storm had revealed a fragment of its secret, yet the heart of the covenant and the full purpose of the endless rain remained shrouded beneath layers of mist and memory. She knew now that to truly understand, she would need to venture deeper, beyond the river's shimmer, into places few had ever seen, where the village's hidden past whispered in shadows and the rain carried more than just water. The fog thickened as she followed the narrow paths winding through the hills. Every step seemed to draw her closer to an invisible center, a point where history and memory converged. The trees around her bent low, their wet branches forming archways that seemed almost deliberate, as if the forest itself guided her. Her lantern flickered against the mist, casting fleeting shadows that danced like ghosts across the damp ground. She felt a profound connection to everything around her. The river below, the hills rising like silent sentinels, and the rain, constant and unyielding, as if it were breathing alongside her. A soft murmur came from the earth itself, a resonance she could feel through her feet. It was subtle, almost imperceptible, yet insistent. She knelt, pressing her hands against the cold, wet soil, and felt the vibration pulse through her bones. Shapes emerged beneath her fingers, faint impressions of buildings, long crumbled footsteps, of people who had walked here centuries ago, and symbols etched in the earth like invisible ink, visible only to those who listened with both mind and heart. "Elara," a voice whispered, carried not by wind, but by the memory embedded in the soil. "To know the covenant, you must understand its roots. The river speaks of promises, but the earth remembers deeds, fears, and sacrifices. The mist conceals not to hide, but to protect those who are not ready." She rose slowly, brushing mud from her clothes, and followed the vibrations, each step revealing faint traces of what once was. Fragments of stone walls, half-buried, moss-covered pillars with carvings she could not yet decipher, and relics submerged in shallow pools, glowing faintly beneath the rain's touch. Every object seemed alive, humming with memory, urging her to listen. The mist parted slightly as she entered a small clearing, where the river widened into a broad, shallow pool. The water was darker here, almost black, reflecting not the sky above, but some hidden depth beneath. In the center of the pool rose a stone altar, covered in moss and engraved with runes that pulsed faintly with golden light. Elara approached cautiously, her lantern illuminating the intricate carvings. The symbols were unfamiliar, yet strangely comforting, as if they contained truths her mind had always known but forgotten. She knelt at the altar, tracing the carvings with her fingers. The river's pulse intensified, resonating with the altar beneath her touch. Visions swirled in her mind. Villagers kneeling, hands raised to the sky. Elders whispering in languages older than memory. Storms summoned not to punish, but to safeguard. And a figure tall and cloaked, raising hands toward clouds heavy with rain. Each vision was fleeting yet vivid, carrying emotions of hope, fear, and devotion, binding past to present. "Elara," the voice spoke again, soft yet commanding. "The covenant is more than words. It is action, sacrifice, and remembrance. The river and rain preserve the village because the people who first made the promise understood the weight of memory. They knew that the future could forget, that deeds could vanish, that time could erode all except what is remembered and honored. The storm exists not as a curse, but as a guardian of memory, a testament to the promise made beneath clouds and sky." Her hands trembled as she absorbed the truth, understanding at last that the covenant had multiple layers, each deeper than the last. The river, the rain, the soil, and the mist were all guardians, each preserving fragments of history, weaving them into a continuous tapestry of remembrance. The village endured because the promise had been made with intent, carried forward by those who remembered, and now entrusted to her. The pool shimmered, revealing more visions. A child laughing in a sunlit square, elders teaching lessons of balance and duty, villagers working together to shield one another from storms, and finally, the first raindrop falling centuries ago, heavy with purpose and intent. Each vision left a resonance in her chest, a weight of memory that was both overwhelming and comforting. "Elara," the voice said, almost a whisper now. "The secrets beneath the mist are not yours alone to bear. They exist to guide, to instruct, to remind. The river carries them, the rain nourishes them, and now you must walk with them. To honor the covenant is to understand fully, to act wisely, and to ensure that nothing is forgotten." She rose, feeling the cool mist cling to her skin, and gazed across the pool. In the distance, the village remained shrouded in rain, quiet and enduring. She realized that her role was not to change what had been, but to preserve it, to witness, and to carry forward the covenant's memory. The secrets beneath the mist were not hidden to deceive, but to protect, to wait for one who could truly understand. Elara knelt one final time, pressing her palms to the altar, feeling the pulse of the river and the heartbeat of the storm intertwine beneath her. A warmth spread through her, steady and reassuring, as if the earth itself was acknowledging her commitment. She understood that the path ahead would be long and challenging, yet she no longer feared it. The mist had revealed its secrets, the river had spoken, and the rain would guide her. The storm softened slightly, the rain falling in gentle sheets, and for the first time she felt a sense of calm settle over the clearing. The altar pulsed softly, the runes glowing like a heartbeat, and the voice murmured once more, a gentle refrain carried across water, earth and sky. Remember, endure, protect, for the secrets beneath the mist hold all that must not be lost. Elara rose, drenched and resolute, understanding that her journey had only deepened. She would follow the river, honor the covenant, and safeguard the village's memory. The storm would test her courage, the mist would hide truths, and the rain would continue its endless fall. Yet she felt ready, her heart aligned with the pulse of the river, the whisper of the clouds, and the eternal song of the covenant. The mist thickened as Elara descended further into the valley, the river beside her flowing with a steady, purposeful pulse. Every droplet of rain seemed imbued with memory, each one whispering fragments of lives long past. The trees leaned inward, their wet branches forming a protective canopy, guiding her steps toward a hidden place few had ever seen. She knew that the covenant's heart was still shrouded, its full truth waiting beneath layers of time, and she felt a mixture of anticipation and solemn reverence pressing gently upon her chest. Ahead, faint outlines emerged through the fog, ruins half swallowed by earth and vegetation, remnants of walls etched with carvings too delicate and old to decipher at first glance. The river's shimmer danced along the edges of broken stone, revealing shapes that seemed to move with a life of their own. Elara stepped carefully among the ruins, her lantern casting trembling light across the moss-covered bricks, illuminating patterns that pulsed faintly, as if breathing with the memory of those who had once walked here. A soft vibration traveled through the ground beneath her feet, subtle but insistent. She knelt, pressing her palms against the damp earth, and felt it thrum like the pulse of the river magnified 100-fold. Shapes emerged beneath her fingers, faint outlines of people kneeling in devotion, symbols of protection, and tiny markings of vows kept and promises made. The whispers grew louder in her mind, carried by the rain and the river, voices of the ancients urging her to listen closely. "Elara," the voice said, distant yet clear, "you have entered a place where memory clings to stone and soil. The ancestors speak through what remains, though few hear them. To understand the covenant fully, you must listen to their whispers, their lessons, and their warnings. The village survives because these voices endured, and now you are chosen to hear what others have long forgotten." She rose, brushing mud from her clothes, and followed a narrow path winding through the ruins. Each step seemed guided by unseen hands, as though the ancestors themselves had left markers to lead her. Pools of rainwater reflected fleeting visions, children running in sunlit squares, elders teaching the covenant's words, storms summoned to protect, not destroy. Each reflection faded almost instantly, yet left a resonance deep within her, a weight of memory both heavy and comforting. The ruins opened into a larger courtyard, dominated by a circular stone platform covered in intricate carvings. The symbols pulsed faintly with golden and silver light, and Elara realized they were part of a larger story. The story of the village, the river, and the covenant. She knelt at the platform's edge, tracing the carvings with her fingers. Instantly, visions flooded her mind. The first covenant keeper standing before the villagers, raising hands to the storm-heavy sky. Prayers uttered aloud in languages she could almost understand. Acts of courage and sacrifice, each one preserved by the rain, the river, and the stones themselves. "Elara," the voice said again, now closer, as if coming from the platform itself. "The whispers you hear are not merely echoes. They are lessons. Each symbol, each vision, is a guide to understanding what has been given and what must be preserved. The covenant is not a relic. It is living memory, a bond that stretches across generations, maintained through remembrance, action, and vigilance. You are now part of that chain." Her heart pounded as she absorbed the weight of responsibility. The ruins seemed alive, the rain intensifying, each drop carrying echoes of promises kept and forgotten. She felt the presence of countless ancestors, their eyes upon her, urging her to see clearly, to understand fully. The covenant was more than a promise between the village and the sky. It was a dialogue across time, a conversation preserved in stone, soil, water, and memory. The platform pulsed with light, and the visions grew sharper. Villagers standing together under storm-darkened skies, hands-linked, eyes lifted to the clouds, elders instructing children in the rites of remembrance. The river flowing with golden shimmer, carrying fragments of lives' deeds and words that might have otherwise been lost. Each image beat within her chest, aligning with the pulse of the river and the rhythm of the rain. "Elara," the voice said softly, almost a whisper of wind through the mist. "To honor the covenant is to carry these memories forward, to protect them, to act when the river calls. The rain will test you, the village will challenge you, and the storm will demand more than courage alone. But through listening, observing, and understanding, you will know what must be done. You are chosen not because it is easy, but because you are capable." She rose slowly, drenched and trembling, yet resolute. Her eyes scanned the courtyard, noting every stone, every marking, every faint glimmer of light. The whispers of the ancients resonated around her, carrying guidance and reassurance. She felt herself bound to the covenant, to the river, and to the village in a way she had never imagined. Memory, sacrifice, and promise intertwined, forming a tapestry that she now bore within her own soul. The wind shifted, softening the rain for a moment, and she realized that the storm had not merely been a test of endurance. It had been a teacher, a guide, a mirror reflecting the strength of generations past. The ruins, the river, and the rain had shown her that the covenant existed not only in words or rituals, but in the actions and remembrance of those who lived and died in service to it. "Elara," the voice said one final time, distant yet intimate. "Remember the whispers, honor the deeds, preserve the promise. The ancestors speak through all that remains, and you must carry their wisdom forward. The heart of the storm is revealed to those who listen, and now you have begun to understand." As she turned to leave the courtyard, the ruins seemed to shimmer softly, the rain falling in gentle sheets, carrying with it the echoes of voices long gone, but never forgotten. She knew that her journey was far from over, that the covenant demanded patience, wisdom, and vigilance, and that the whispers of the ancients would guide her every step. The river flowed steadily beside her, golden light dancing upon its surface, and she felt a profound calm settle over her. The village awaited her return, yet she carried within her the weight and the wisdom of generations, the covenant's memory alive and unbroken. Above, the clouds shifted slightly, revealing a faint, impossible glow, and the mist seemed to part just enough to let her see the path ahead, a path she now understood she must walk with courage, devotion, and unwavering resolve. The mist lifted slightly as Elara approached the heart of the valley, where the river's golden shimmer widened into a vast expanse of water, reflecting clouds heavy with centuries of rain. The air was dense, filled with the scent of wet earth and the subtle hum of memory carried through the storm. She had followed the whispers of the ancients, traced the covenant's pulse along the river, and seen visions of past generations. Yet she felt that the final truth, the essence of the covenant, awaited her in this sacred place. The wind whispered through the trees, carrying droplets that danced like tiny lights in the dim grey of the storm. The river's hum grew louder, more insistent, as though urging her onward toward a point beyond sight, beyond memory, yet intimately connected to all that had come before. Elara felt her heartbeat align with the river, each pulse a reminder of the promise she now carried, each step drawing her closer to the revelation she had sought since the first shimmer appeared in the water. Ahead, she saw a rise in the terrain, a plateau where the river curved around a stone circle, ancient and perfect in its symmetry. Moss and lichen clung to the stones, yet their carvings pulsed faintly with golden and silver light, echoing the rhythm of the river below. The storm seemed to focus here, the rain falling in deliberate, measured sheets, and the clouds above swirling as if watching, waiting, guarding. Elara approached the circle, her feet careful on the slick stone, her lantern held high. The carvings beneath her hands pulsed more strongly now, and the river's shimmer converged into a single stream of golden light flowing into the center of the circle. She knelt, placing her palms upon the stones, and instantly visions surged through her mind. The first covenant keeper standing among villagers beneath storm-darkened skies, elders teaching the covenant's words, generations protecting the village with acts of courage and devotion, the first raindrops falling heavy with intent and purpose. The eternal rain, a voice spoke, resonant and encompassing, is not a curse. It is a guardian, a witness, a living memory. The village endures because the covenant was made with understanding and foresight. Each drop carries the weight of promises. Each storm preserves deeds. Each shimmer of the river reflects lives that must not be forgotten. You have come to witness the fullness of this truth, to bear it forward, and to act as its steward. Elara's chest tightened as she absorbed the enormity of the moment. The river, the storm, the mist, and the stones themselves were alive with purpose. Every vision, every whisper she had followed since the first shimmer now aligned into a single, coherent truth. The rain was the village's memory made tangible, the covenant a bond unbroken across centuries, and she, its newest guardian. The stones beneath her hands seemed to hum, golden lights spreading outward in gentle pulses. She saw images of villagers centuries ago, standing together under skies torn by storms, hands linked, voices raised in prayer, and acts of courage that ensured the survival of the village. She saw the keeper of the clouds, guiding the first covenant keeper, teaching the way of memory and vigilance. And she saw herself, following their path, standing in the circle, chosen to carry the promise forward. "You understand now," the voice said, soft as a lullaby yet unwavering, "that the covenant is living, that memory must be preserved, that the river and rain are both teachers and protectors. To honor the covenant is to witness, to act, and to ensure that nothing is forgotten. You are now bound to the eternal rain, as all who came before were, and as all who will come after must be." Tears mingled with the rain on her cheeks as Elara realized the depth of her responsibility. She rose, feeling the pulse of the river beneath her, the heartbeat of generations flowing through the stones, and the rhythm of the storm enveloping her completely. The eternal rain was no longer simply water falling from the sky. It was memory, promise, and vigilance made tangible, a living force that connected past, present, and future. The mist parted further, revealing the village below, shimmering faintly under the endless rain. The streets were quiet, yet she sensed the presence of those who had lived and those who would live, all bound by the covenant, all protected by the rain's ceaseless fall. She understood that her role was not to command the storm, but to witness, preserve, and guide, ensuring that the promise remained alive in the hearts and minds of those who dwelled there. The river pulsed once more, golden threads of light weaving into her own heartbeat, and she felt a profound calm settle over her. The storm's voice murmured one final time, "Remember, endure, protect. The eternal rain is your charge, and in it, all that must not be forgotten will remain." Elara knelt at the circle one last time, placing her hands over the carved runes, feeling the energy flow through her. She understood now that the covenant was not merely a story of rain and village, but a living dialogue across time, a bond forged by courage, memory, and devotion. The storm, the river, and the rain had revealed their heart, and she would carry it forward. As she rose, the wind softened. The rain fell in gentle, rhythmic sheets, and the clouds above shifted to reveal a faint glow, as though the sky itself acknowledged her understanding. She gazed across the valley, feeling the pulse of history, memory, and promise in every drop. The eternal rain would continue, unending, yet no longer a burden. A guardian, a witness, a living testament to the covenant she now bore. With measured steps, Elara descended toward the village, each movement deliberate, every heartbeat in tune with the river and storm. The whispers of the ancients echoed softly behind her, a chorus of memory and guidance, and she felt the weight of generations pressing gently upon her shoulders. She knew that the path ahead would be long, demanding, and sometimes lonely, yet she carried within her the covenant, the eternal rain, and the unwavering bond of those who had come before. The river shimmered gold and silver in the fading mist. The stones of the ancient circle pulsed one last time, and Elara walked onward, a living keeper of memory, promise, and the eternal rain. The rain had slowed to a gentle drizzle as Elara retraced her steps along the riverbank, yet the valley held an unfamiliar stillness, as if the mist itself had thickened to shield what lay ahead. Shadows stretched across the hills and the broken stone ruins, shifting subtly with the movement of clouds above, hinting at stories that had been swallowed by time. Every step she took carried the weight of anticipation, for she knew that even after witnessing the heart of the storm and hearing the whispers of the ancients, there remained corners of memory untouched, secrets waiting patiently to be discovered. The forest around her seemed almost sentient, each leaf trembling under the raindrops, each branch swaying with purpose. A faint rustle led her to a narrow path she had not noticed before, winding deeper into the hills, veiled by the mist and the soft grey of the sky. The river's pulse became quieter here, almost a whisper, as if urging her to listen more closely to the subtle vibrations of the earth beneath her feet. She walked cautiously, her lantern cutting a narrow path of light, yet revealing glimpses of shapes and carvings hidden within the stones, remnants of villages older than any written history. Elara reached a clearing where the mist seemed to gather, thick and almost tangible, curling around her shoulders like a protective cloak. Here, the air was heavy with the scent of wet stone, moss, and something indefinable, the faint perfume of memory itself. The ground beneath her feet vibrated faintly, and she knelt, pressing her palms against the damp earth. Faint impressions appeared, fleeting yet precise. Footprints of villagers who had walked this valley centuries ago, patterns of hands raised in prayer, and symbols etched into stone and soil, preserved against the erosion of time. Each mark hummed with energy, and as she traced them, visions flickered in her mind. Children laughing in sunlit squares, elders guiding them through rituals, the first covenant keeper invoking the rain, storms called forth to shield rather than punish. Elara, the voice whispered, soft yet resonant. There are shadows here, memories that even the river cannot fully carry. They linger, hidden, because they were almost lost. To honor the covenant, you must not only witness the light of the past, but also navigate its shadows. They are as vital as the river, as necessary as the rain. She rose slowly, letting the damp mist cling to her skin, and followed the path deeper into the valley. Shapes emerged from the fog. Fragments of buildings, barely recognizable pillars, half swallowed by earth, and shallow pools where the water shimmered faintly, revealing images of moments almost forgotten. A child falling and rising, a villager's silent act of bravery. The faint outlines of a figure cloaked in silver and blue, who had guided the Covenant's earliest keepers. Each vision was fleeting, but it left a resonance, a reminder that memory is fragile and must be tended. The river curved sharply, forming a natural amphitheater of stone and moss. Here, the mist swirled more intensely, and the whispers of the ancients grew clearer, layered over one another like voices in a cathedral. Elara knelt by the water's edge, her fingers skimming its surface, feeling the pulse of centuries beneath her touch. The water's reflection shimmered with golden and silver threads, weaving images of past generations into a tapestry of light and shadow. Villagers performing daily tasks, elders instructing children, storms gathering and dispersing at the behest of unseen hands, and a single raindrop falling imbued with purpose and the weight of promise. You see now, the voice continued, echoing through the clearing, that the forgotten shadows are as important as what you have already witnessed. They hold lessons that must not be overlooked, sacrifices unrecorded, choices that shaped the covenant's endurance. To carry the promise forward, one must honor both what is remembered and what nearly slipped away. Ilara's chest tightened with the weight of understanding. The shadows around her, once indistinct and foreboding, now seemed alive with purpose. Each stone, each puddle, each rustling leaf carried echoes of lives that had built the village's legacy. She felt the presence of countless ancestors guiding her, urging her to recognize the depth of their commitment and the fragility of memory. The mist parted briefly, revealing the river stretching across the valley, golden and silver light weaving along its course, connecting past, present, and future. Ilara Ensa's reflection shimmered alongside visions of those long gone, a villager teaching a child to read the signs of the river, a keeper of the clouds raising hands toward the sky, a storm dispersing gently over the village as if acknowledging its own role in preservation. Each image resonated within her, aligning her heartbeat with the rhythm of the valley and the river itself. Ilara, the voice said again, soft and almost reverent, you are now part of the Covenant's living memory. The shadows you encounter are not to frighten, but to remind. The rain, the river, and the mist carry all that is vital. The light of deeds remembered, the weight of sacrifices made, and the power of those who will endure. To bear the covenant is to witness, protect, and honor every shadow and every shimmer of light. She rose, feeling the cool mist cling to her clothes, and surveyed the clearing. The ruins seemed to pulse with quiet life, the rain falling gently in measured sheets, and the river flowing steadily beside her. She understood that the Covenant's survival depended not only on acts of courage in the open light, but also on the recognition and preservation of moments almost lost, the shadows of the forgotten. Ilara knelt one last time, pressing her palms to the stone, feeling the river's pulse beneath her, the storm's rhythm around her, and the centuries of memory embedded in every stone and droplet. She had traversed the heart of the storm, listened to the whispers of the ancients, and now she faced the shadows, completing the circle of understanding. The Covenant's depth, complexity, and beauty stretched across time, and she would carry it forward, protecting both the light and the shadows. The mist softened, the rain falling in gentle cascades, and the ruins shimmered faintly, as if acknowledging her presence and commitment. She rose, lantern in hand, feeling the pulse of the river and the heartbeat of the storm align with her own. The valley whispered its approval, the river glowed in golden threads, and the shadows of the forgotten receded slightly, content in their preservation. Ilara began her journey back toward the village, each step deliberate, every heartbeat aligned with the Covenant. She understood now that her role was not to conquer the storm or erase the shadows, but to witness, remember, and protect. The whispers of the forgotten, the pulse of the river, and the eternal rain would guide her, as they had guided countless generations before her, and as they would continue to guide those yet to come.